IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast. I'm Tejas. This week I have Dinkar with me. What's up, man?
What's up, Tejas? How do you do?
Good. I'm good. I'm alright. We've come to the end of the year, almost.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few more films before we conclude this year, which has not been...
We have two major ones in the last weeks of December, I believe. The Spider-Verse
The
and
one which we're going to be talking
the one
about
which
today.
we're about to speak of in like
And,
30 seconds.
And we have Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I almost wish that we saw Aquaman before we saw Spider-Man.
Because Spider-Man has given us a lot to live. A high bar has been set.
A very high bar has been set. And Aquaman, we know, is not going to be like... It's not going to be exceptional.
Who knows? It might surprise us.
No. That's not even. Let's
We're
not even
giving it
entertain
the
the
benefit
thought.
of doubt.
Yeah, but it's making a ton of money though.
Well, of course, that was a given.
Yeah,
It was always going to make...
No, it's never
Is it Atlantis
a given.
bucks?
No, I'll tell you why. Because...
Is it making a lot of clams?
One second. Justice League, which arguably should have been the biggest opener and, you know, have all the people coming in for that film, considering it has Batman, Superman, etc., didn't do well at the box office. It was poorly received, blah,
As
blah, blah.
per expectations, I believe, it still did fine. It made back whatever money and whatnot.
Made back money?
Yeah.
Surely that's not the
I
intention.
might be wrong.
They
I've
can't
been
make
wrong
an-
about box office stuff before.
The only reason why...
as we found out.
The only reason why they call it gross is because these
It's
terrible
disgusting.
movies make a disgusting amount of money. That's all. And it's not fair, I feel sometimes. But, however, today we are here to talk about Spider-Man. Before we get into it, we have some complaints. We have complaints that have been filed
Some
with us.
grievances have been filed with us.
All
But
because of you, Dinkar.
it is because of me. Again, on the very subject that I just started speculating on again. With no regard
I think
for
you
decency.
should just keep doing. I think you should just give inaccurate figures consistently.
Make this my thing now.
Make this your thing. It's great.
I'll trace it back to how the origin story of this new thing that I'm starting now, which is that I foolishly, instead of saying that Avengers cost 4 times as much as 2.0, said that 2.0 cost 4 times as much as Avengers.
That's the problem when you have a number multiple as the title of your film.
Correct. Yeah, 2.0 threw me off.
Yeah.
Well, this has started a
chain reaction.
crisis of
Well,
sorts.
Well, the best thing that it's done is that it shows that people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Which is great. In
It
fact,
shows
we
that
got...
people did the math.
Yes,
They
we
did the math.
got quite a spicy email from Salman Kareem, one of our consistent listeners and stuff, and he was quite
We've
quite pissed,
angered
man.
Salman, huh?
We angered Salman, and
I
something we do
apologize.
not want to do in this country.
Yeah.
Alright. Hey, nerd geeks, you got the info wrong on the Avengers budget. That movie cost $250 million, courtesy Box Office Mojo. That's like I say. I feel like you've addressed this in the last episode, in our bulletin,
yes.
right?
Completely correct.
Right.
We got the multiplications wrong.
I hope Salman got to listen to that, but let me just go on.
But
that's not
he
the-
has more to add because I said that we were wrong on the budget, but the point I felt still stands.
I
Salman
feel like
has
that's his.
He has some words for us
His
on that.
greater complaint is not really the bungling up of the figures.
Yeah.
It's he's like, but that's not the reason why the movie is far below average.
Far below average, maybe.
Far below average. Or was he average below par? It's the weak plotline and the characterizations. Agree with all your ideas there, but your final rant about superstars, especially Rajni, was unwarranted for. There was a time he did masala pot boilers and people got fed up. He tried to reinvent, did a Kabali and Kala. Movies there were age appropriate and various themes for caste politics or gender equality, but people rejected him, saying that we want the old Rajnis. We don't give the man shit for not trying. At least he rakes in money, gives people something to talk about. Peace out.
Peace out is never
bit of a rant.
a happy way to end.
I will
something.
say this,
Like
I'll
if you
just-
say peace out, you're kind of pissed. Like,
Yeah.
peace out.
Yeah. You know what? I will defend Dinkar here, and I'll say that I was the one who went on a rant because I go
We
on
both
unwanted
did.
rants all the time, and I don't give a damn. Because
Peace out.
Yeah, peace out. Because I don't really care much for Indian cinema, or like. I don't think it's good. I think they have more hits than they have more misses than hits. Of late, it's being
On the whole, because we've made a lot.
They've been
maybe.
trying to change it. I accept that.
There are
Andhadhun
some
is
hits
on my
like Tarzan the Wonder Car.
correct. There is
Simba.
Simba.
All jungle-based stuff.
All
basically.
the so many good
Singham.
movies. Tube Light.
Tube Life. I don't know where that came from.
Okay, anyway, but my point is there are lots of terrible movies that get a lot of unwarranted attention, and that kind of pisses me off because there's some good movies. Andhadhun is on my watch list. I have heard really good things about it.
Still playing in theatres.
It is still playing in theatres. And here's the thing: I don't think defending Bollywood is like, I mean, it should be the other way around. Like, we should be encouraging other independent films, and we've spoken about that. I don't want to get into it.
And what I want to say about our rant on superstars in particular, and Rajni in particular, because I was saying the same thing that Salman said to you. Maybe not on the episode, maybe when we were watching the movie.
I remember you said
where we were saying that basically Rajni's tried to do different things.
You're right. You told me that. And Dinkar is the one who said that. And I rejected his claim. I said, no, this is nonsense. Just because the people want something, you have to give it to them. No, I'm sorry. You have to treat your audiences with more respect.
You're superstar Rajni. It's the same thing with Shah Rukh Khan, man. What he said about...
so succumb then.
When SRK was asked about AK's, Amir Khan's Thugs of Hindustan, which is a terrible failure, and basically journalists trying to rake up gossip were like, well, what do you think? Thugs of Hindustan failed, huh? And Shah Rukh Khan was like, man, give the guy credit for trying something.
Exactly.
I tried something, it didn't work out.
And so I went back to my...
I've gone back to my thing. At least he's still trying stuff.
So here's my thing. I don't believe that you need to dumb down your cinema just because you're not getting the kind of response that you need. I'm sorry, we just saw this terrible movie called Bohemian Rhapsody, which is all about Queen and all about Freddie Mercury. And if you just take his story into example, and I know it's a different audience and blah, blah, blah. But the moment you start treating your audience like idiots, that's when it starts to fail. It starts to crumble, the entire structure of it. But Freddie Mercury went and made whatever damn thing he wanted, and he just got more people on board. And he's a exceptional man, and that's a different story.
Yeah.
But superstar Rajini's got superstar behind his name for something, man. You can still make movies. Sorry, I disagree with this whole thing that he tried but he failed. That's why he's making movies again which have audiences.
Fail exactly because those movies, they were not bad movies.
And I didn't say 2.0 was bad, by the way.
Yeah.
I said it was average. It could have been better, but there were some good things about it.
We're trying to get everyone to do better, and they won't listen to us.
Yeah, everybody wants to crap on us. We're just the messenger, man. All right, you know what? I've had enough of this.
We are 4 times as right.
Don't even get me started. I will destroy you. Okay, anyway. But my point is...
We'll discuss this more in our review of Zero.
Yeah. But Salman, thanks for mailing in. And all of you guys who have really caught us on the figures and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like messing up facts.
Wrote into us on Facebook.
Yes.
A gentleman named Sham, I think. Messaged me personally on Instagram going like, so I told someone that Avengers was 4 times less costly than 2.0, and I was like, did you also get instantly shit on?
You know what, it's fine. I don't think, messing up figures is fine. Okay, we made a mistake.
Fine.
But I think just intrinsically
in fact,
what this discussion is about.
Now we're just going to do it all the time. It's the Trump strategy of if you make 50 mistakes, people won't focus on the one mistake.
This is true.
Yeah. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse made on a budget of $83 billion.
Actually, it's 90 million, but we'll go. I actually did want to know how much this movie cost. So,
was it 90 million?
90 million.
I say it's 83 billion.
You may be right there.
Which is, of course, 4 times as much as 2.0.
But, okay, cool. So we'll close that. Numbers, figures, all of that stuff. And 2.0, it was not a great film. I think they need to do better. Sorry, that's just my opinion. Yeah. That's why we have a podcast. Start your own damn podcast. No, it's fine. Let's move on to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Shall we take a break and then begin?
All right.
Hello, everybody. We have a brand new daily podcast we're working on with Bloomberg Quint. All you need to know provides the top news on business, markets, and the economy so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Tune in every morning on BloombergQuint.com, the IVM podcast app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Hey, we're back. We're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Sony Animation's wonderful, amazing film on, and it's like a tribute almost to Spider-Man, and it's their first animated film for Marvel, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, wow. Where do we even begin with this
Well
film?
done, huh? Let's start with maybe the fact that this movie was made at all is surprising given how much energy they've been putting into their Spider-Man live-action universe.
Yes.
And trying to make that a thing, and that's consistently failed for the past, since Spider-Man 3 onwards at least, they haven't managed to do one all-round hit or successful movie even get hit?
No, I mean, well. So I watched a bit of Homecoming before I went for.
That's not a
Into the
Sony
Spider-Man.
movie.
No, not a Sony movie, of course.
Yeah.
But I went for I just watched a bit of Homecoming, and I just saw, two scenes that really stand out for me in that film. One is where he says, "Oh, what do you even, complain? You're not. I bet you're not even in that suit." And then like Robert Downey Jr. comes out of the Iron Man suit, and he just lectures him. And he says, "If you're not, if you think you need the suit to be a superhero, then you don't deserve it to begin with."
Yeah.
That and the second scene where Spider-Man is lectured. He basically is threatened by the Vulture. Amazing scene.
Yeah.
Two scenes that really kind of encapsulate who Spider-Man is. One is just the fact that he's a kid and that he's being lectured and he needs that kind of guidance. And the second one where he says, "If you come after my daughter, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill your family." And he goes right after him immediately, because the thing about Spider-Man is that he doesn't give up. He's just a great kid and amazing dude, and then he has the powers. So that's so wonderful. I think this movie. Yes, the visuals, everything is amazing, and we're going to talk about that. But something that just was so obvious from start to finish is that whoever has been making this film, all the creators, all the animators, whoever, there's a clear love for this character that is so present throughout the film. Like, they love Spider-Man and they just wanted to make a great Spider-Man film, and they did it. Like, that was a thing that was completely obvious from start to finish for me.
So the story of how this movie came about apparently was Sony asked Phil Lord and Chris Miller to create, if they'd be interested in doing an animated Spider-Man movie. They asked for animation from the start, right? And they said no. And then apparently they called back 2 days later and said, "All right, you know what? We're going to do it if we can make it about Miles Morales." Which straight away tells you that they have a love for the Spider-Man lore in general, and they wanted to do something new and different and tell a Spider-Man story that they thought hadn't been told enough.
Yeah, man.
Or several Spider people stories.
Exactly. I mean, and yes, this movie is entirely about Miles and things like that. But you know what? Like, a couple of things that just like struck out like very clearly also while I was watching this. The first thing, man, I was watching this like thing unfold and all that stuff, and I was just like, wow, man, we are in the future. Like, firstly, okay, this is the future of storytelling, which is that we've already had 20 years now of Spider-Man films, and we can tell this story now, which is like absolutely wild when it comes to telling a superhero film. Like, this is not like, you cannot start with this film.
Yeah, it's building off of
many years of
people's
Spider-Man.
general pop cultural knowledge of Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's one thing. And the second thing is visually, like how this film looks and feels and just everything that it does. Man, I was just like, we have crossed over, man, into the future of like animation and direction. I don't know what they did, like how they conceptualize this film.
There's so much going on. It's nuts.
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
So it's 3D animation in a sense, in that it looks like it's been built in a similar way to how your Pixar movies and such are built.
Yeah.
But also there's like a very flat 2D-ish aspect to it.
Yeah.
There's like half-tone texture throughout.
Yeah, I think it's because they wanted to replicate that comic book
feel
style.
of a comic book, right? There's a lot of panels, there's word bubbles.
And there's a lot of like offset printing, like that kind of, that effect where, like one layer over another layer, but doesn't sync exactly.
Doesn't, exactly match.
Man, brilliant, dude. Like, I just think, just straight up without, you guys gotta, if you have to watch this movie, watch it in IMAX and in 3D, it'll like, man, like, I was talking to my flatmate after watching it yesterday, and we were just saying, man, we need to watch this movie from a little bit of a distance now, because we were really like up close and we just so much to take in that now I just want to watch it like a little far back and just see the entire frame at once. Otherwise, you're like enveloped by the graphics.
Yeah, and maybe you want like a little bit of distance to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's like you could get an epileptic attack watching this movie. It's so
there's so much going on.
Crazy. Yeah.
There's like those sound effects that pop up throughout.
Man, so good.
Remind me a lot of Scott Pilgrim, which of course also that took inspiration from comic books and put it in real life, and now bringing back into animation.
Man, so good.
Full circle.
All these movies should be this way.
Every movie now on is just in the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, man, it's brilliant.
Visually stunning and so inventive. And the fact that later on, when the other Spider people come in, like Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir and stuff, those characters are they created in the style of their things, right?
And
like
they're following
Spider-Ham
the-
looks like a Looney Tunesy cartoon.
And they're following the physics of their universe
Yeah.
in their movement and stuff.
In
Like,
the
I don't
real
know how
world,
they
it's
did
nuts.
this, but there's this one thing where, like, when, they try and do this kind of really jokey, kind of unmotion blurred kind of movement, which is
Yeah.
like this 25 or, 20 FPS
Low
almost.
frame rate kind of scenes, yeah.
And then it immediately shifts to a very smooth section. It's fine. It's very deliberate, like the movie, the way it's paced, the way it's kind of, like, I don't know how they storyboarded this thing,
Yeah.
but like it's very deliberate. It's not like, man, everything has been planned like to perfection in this
Yeah,
film. And it's-
absolutely.
I don't know how they even, like, where did they get the sense of like space? Like
Yeah.
there's this last section in the film which is about 20 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Which there is no physical structure. Remind me a lot of like the Doctor Strange sequence when they enter the mirror world and everything
Yeah.
is, in that sequence where, what's his name is following them. Mads Mikkelsen's character is
Yeah.
just like following them throughout New York City and everything is like just going haywire. It was like that, but like in like fluorescent kind of flashy color. It's just like this attack of colors. And I was just thinking, man, that entire sequence, they must have known that. We were like, yeah, we'll set this in the normal world and we'll do our little thing. But the last sequence has to just be absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And like doing it works so well because it ties into what the story is about, which is alternate dimensions. So that just works really well design-wise. If you
Yeah.
have multiple dimensions, even the opening credits of this film just kind of flop between like the Marvel logo, then like, the old logo, then the new logo. It just keeps kind of going through different
glitches
dimensions.
back and forth.
Amazing, man.
Really well
Wow.
done. Which ties into the story itself.
Exactly,
It's not
yeah.
just for the sake of
it's
effect,
just like,
right?
conceptually, it's perfect, right? Because it works
Yeah.
well for the design and works well for the story. And that's the kind of
Yeah.
balance that you don't find, man. Like,
That's what you need when you do a visual thing, right? Like if this movie had a weakish story, or if
Yeah.
if the effects seemed piled on, then you wouldn't be like, you might say it's a good-looking movie at best. But this is a movie that works on so many levels
Yeah,
because
that's true.
everything they do visually just underscores what they're trying to do story-wise.
man, the movie that disappointed me now even more in retrospect is Big Hero 6, right? Like, I saw that movie and it was Marvel's first thing, with Disney animation and so Pixar, I suppose. No, it was
Disney, I think.
It was Disney, right? And like, I really wanted them to go, like, this is wild. This movie is bizarre. It's not, I did not expect to see a lot of things in this movie, and they just threw it because I think they just had the freedom to just do whatever they wanted, and they
Yeah,
told the
pretty
story
much.
that they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And that movie just felt so, now even more in retrospect, like feels so constrained by the, by the superhero genre format. But when you have animation and you have these tools available, this is the kind of film you can make. And that movie, a lot of people enjoyed it, and I was just like, but why? It doesn't have that. It doesn't have any depth. I feel like this movie could bring, for me, these are the movies that kind of define what you can or can't do with animation.
With
you know?
animation.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like with the Spider-Man character in general,
this-
man.
That's so brilliant, dude.
It expands the idea of Spider-Man in such a new direction,
Yeah.
at least in terms of how it's been portrayed in the movies
Right.
so far. So let's set the table here.
Cool.
What is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse about?
So it's about Miles Morales' character in a New York City that we know.
Yeah.
And I have some theories about that.
Okay.
But so it's Miles Morales' story. He's a kid who's got he's a very smart kid who's just transferred to a new school because he's gotten in through merit, and he doesn't want to go there. He wants to be like a regular kid, but he's obviously a smarter kid. He's obviously a cut above the rest, and they kind of establish that very quickly in the beginning. And he's a bit of a geek. He's a bit of a spaz,
Yeah.
but and he is having some trouble fitting in. But after an encounter with 42 Spider from Malcolm X, which is straight from the Ultimate Comics,
Yeah.
he gets bitten by it, and he starts to transform into Spider-Man, and his world kind of goes crazy, where he basically finds himself amidst a struggle between Kingpin and Spider-Man, this Spider-Man of his universe.
Yeah.
And Kingpin's agenda is to open up multiple dimensions so that he can bring back his deceased family,
Yeah.
because he wants to be reunited with them, and he wants to bring them from another universe. Spider-Man is trying to stop it, and basically chaos ensues. Are we spoiling? We should spoil it.
We can spoil up
Spoil
to
it
this
later on.
point, I think. Let's not spoil beyond this, but up till here, that's kind of just the premise, I'd say.
No, I feel like okay, that's the premise.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
and I wanna talk about that
Okay.
A little bit. But, so yeah, and basically Miles is, Spider-Man recognizes him as somebody who has the same spider powers. And he says that, I can't do this. You have to kind of go and switch off this machine. Otherwise, it's going to destroy...
The machine, the collider that is
yeah.
opening the portals into other dimensions.
Yeah. So, and he's tasked with this responsibility, and he's well out of his... league, and he's not Spider-Man. He's just a kid with powers, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And then over the course of the film, multiple Spider-Men enter his universe through the same kind of through the collider, and they start to kind of guide him and help him and figure out how to be a Spider-Man. So that's essentially what the movie's about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically a bunch of spider people mentoring Miles. So Miles is still the central character.
Yeah.
And the other spider people are really, while they're all dealing with issues of their own, and easily could be central characters of their own thing.
Man, wow, by the way. And this is my point, right? Like, I can't remember what we were watching. Something, like in Justice League, they tried their best to give Batman an arc also. I was just like, Batman... People like Batman and Peter Parker and like others, like Superman, you don't need to give them an arc anymore. You don't have to. Like Batman in Justice League doesn't have to show up with like a story. He doesn't need a story. He needs to be cool. He needs to do what he does in the DC animated films. Just come in, say something cool, be cool, that's it.
And bounce.
and let the other characters develop, because we don't know the other characters.
True.
Similarly here, we get something very similar in the fact that we know Peter Parker, and there are multiple introduction kind of little montages.
Yeah, each of the spider people,
which are hilarious because it's got a ton of Easter eggs in them.
Yeah.
But you don't need to tell us more about Peter Parker, because we know who Peter Parker is. We know what he stands for. We know the entire story. And so we get so much room for Miles and the other characters. Like, you don't have to tell us about so much about Penny Parker or or Spider-Man Noir, because in seconds they establish it and it's done. And then they just have to follow their bit. They don't have arcs. They're not supposed to have. They're like two-dimensional characters, if you will.
Yeah.
But they're not supposed to have arcs. And even the little bit that they do, they have a little bit of a setup payoff towards the end and the beginning. And it's so well orchestrated between all these characters that, man, really, and this movie is done in 1 hour 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And like Justice League and all these movies, you don't need to
take
give these
2.5, 3 hours, but they'd never get anywhere.
Exactly. And it's the same thing about Iron Man in Spider-Man Homecoming. You don't need to tell us anymore who Iron Man is. He doesn't need an arc. Similarly here, that was so good. Just so well handled in this film.
Yeah, especially with Peter Parker, right? If anything, Peter Parker is the other main character in this movie who has a very clear arc. So essentially there's one version of Peter Parker who starts mentoring Miles throughout this movie, played by Jake Johnson, who is sort of in his universe, he's a washed up guy.
He's like the 40-year-old Peter Parker.
He is, yeah. He's got a bit of a gut. He's gone through a pretty bad divorce with MJ.
Yeah.
And he basically feels like he's let everyone down. So he's kind of recovering from that.
He's an existential Parker.
So pretty much he's being Jake Johnson.
He's Nick Miller.
He's Nick Miller.
From New Girl. Which is, I just think Jake Johnson is the best, man.
Yeah,
I love that guy. He would actually be a great, Peter Parker, in general. He's got the vibe for it, man. He's funny also, yeah.
Especially like a Peter Parker in this stage of life, right?
Yeah.
So this version of Peter Parker is thrust into the mentorship position to Miles Morales. And a lot of the movie is also about, while it's about Miles growing into becoming Spider-Man, it's about this Peter Parker realizing that he too is Spider-Man and he can get his life back on track.
Yeah.
Which is that's two very different themes.
No, and it's cool.
And both dealt with well.
Yeah, because they both kind of service each other's stories, right? The whole reason why, they mention it very briefly, but the reason why MJ and him have split is because she wanted kids and he didn't know if he wanted kids.
Yeah.
And then he ends up taking care of this guy, and then he's just man, at the end he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. And he's like, I didn't know if I could have this feeling, and which kind of completes his arc also perfectly. Man, towards the end of this film, I don't know if you got this vibe, but the stakes are built so quickly and so much, and at the end, I felt like I was watching the finale of a trilogy or something, man.
Yeah, because there's so much that goes on, right?
Yeah, man.
Again, this movie really takes advantage of everything we already know about Spider-Man, particularly the Peter Parker version.
Yeah.
There's of course that great moment where I think it's Miles' dad who says, with great ability comes
Okay.
great accountability. And Miles goes like, that's not even how it goes.
yeah, that's
Or
awesome.
one point where Miles starts
Saying
quoting the
past,
great
and he's
power
like,
great-
"Don't you say that?" I love that it's so tongue-in-cheek, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's one where Spider-Ham says, "That's all, folks." And he's like, "Is he even allowed to do that? Like,
Yeah.
legally?" Man, that was brilliant, dude.
Yeah.
I think John Mulaney is like a genius.
He's, man, and
What
he's so
perfect casting.
perfect to play Spider-Ham, who
Yeah.
is basically a Looney Tunes character.
yeah.
Because he sounds like he's
Yeah,
a cartoon character.
Man,
all
John
the time.
Mulaney is that like old-timey guy. You know,
even
like,
his inflection is like
Yeah.
that, right? It can get weirder.
Man, this movie is brilliant. There are a couple of things that I really enjoyed about it. Is that Spider-Man has generally, it's Spider-Man. It's not like Spider-Man or anything like that. It's a very singular story. And, you know, most of Spider-Man's life has been him coping with things that he can't share with other people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he feels like very confined to his own thing. He's a solitary guy. He can't reveal to MJ. He can't, until obviously much later on Aunt May. You know, he bears the burden of the guilt for Uncle Ben. So all these things has been, you know, singularly on his shoulders for the longest time. What was so great about this is one scene which I love where, you know, I mean, there's a bit of a moment which we'll spoil maybe later on that, you know, Miles is dealing with. And he's just like, I can't believe this is, you know, this thing has happened. And you know, Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider or Spider-Woman in this film comes up to him and says, you know, we are literally the only people who will understand.
Yeah.
And it was so nice for a change for Spider-Man to have, you know, it was so cool because like all of them are saying, man, it's just so nice. They're all kind of appreciative of the fact that there are other Spider-Men and Spider-Women, you know, like that are just there and have gone through the same thing. And they just felt like this, wow, this is cool that all of us have each other. That was really nice. And I thought that was so unique, man. And like Spider-Man as a character, you won't find this like in a Batman story or anything. Like this is such a uniquely Spider-Man story also.
It is,
you know? Yeah, this movie is brilliant. Was there anything you didn't like about this film? Very little, actually.
Very little, like really astonishingly little, because this movie is so ambitious.
Yeah.
And it managed to do almost everything it has to, which
it
is
juggles
amazing.
so much, man.
If anything, the one thing I would say I felt could have been better was that last sequence, which is basically essentially the premise of the movie is that all the Spider-Men have to fix the collider and get back home, right?
Yeah.
Spider people, if you will. And that kind of happens, and then they leave Miles alone to finish the story off by himself in the universe that most of the movie is set in.
Yeah.
And I felt like that sequence dragged a bit. Like you said, it's visually stunning, really inventive. It takes place in a not quite physical world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like floating particles
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like psychedelic colors happening and stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's again a 10-minute long fight sequence.
Yeah.
Between Miles Morales
It was them
Wilson
like
Fisk.
having fun, I think. It's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
think so.
yeah.
They were just like, let's go all out and
Yeah.
like, let's squander whatever visual effects budget we have on this one
On this last
sequence.
scene. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So it was good.
Yeah.
It felt like the story kind of came to a close and then they were just ticking boxes. You know?
Fair enough.
That
and
might be the one quibble
They
I
could have had like a more ambitious ending, as in like in the sense that it didn't have to resolve perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, just as a thing. It's totally fine. I didn't have any like complaints as much. I just love the Prowler so much. I wish we got to see more of the Prowler because that's like one of my favorite characters, and he's got kind of a negative role in this film, and he's been like
He's an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's a bit of a great character in the comics as well, but he's an amazing character.
Yeah.
And like I would have loved to see like more, especially since it's Mahershala playing him,
Playing the
like in the
Prowler,
and who does an excellent job. Everyone is great in this film.
Yeah, all the acting is spectacular.
Man, dead on. Like Jay
Yeah.
Johnson, dude, so good.
Freaking
Like,
Nicolas Cage, man.
Dude, Nicolas Cage also, man. Dude, Nicolas Cage has had a great year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he with Mandy also apparently is like superb. And you know, and this film, and apparently he's in Teen Titans Go also as well.
Really?
Yeah. This
Ooh,
is his
nice.
second animated film for Nicolas Cage this year. So him, everyone does a really good job. Yeah, man. I wish we spent more time. What do you think of like Kingpin and
Kingpin was great.
Yeah.
I mean, fairly, again, probably
villains,
building off
let's
of
put
the
it
idea
that,
that the villains in general I thought were great. There's not a lot of time given to them in terms of like their character and stuff,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Because it's
Kingpin
more
at least
about the
has
heroes in this one.
Exactly. And Kingpin has a clear job, like he has motivation and he kind of goes through with what he needs to do. I really liked his character design and his generally like how
so
he's
cool.
acted out.
So Leaf Schreiber, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so he seems menacing throughout, and that's about all you need him to do, really.
Yeah.
There's not, even with, in fact, Kingpin, there is a moment of like a little emotional arc that they throw in for him with the family.
No, and it's perfectly rounded out towards the end, like he's got Miles again. He finds
He
himself
fails
the same...
because he's doing this for his family.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah, it was great, man. Dude, it was amazing, dude. It was fantastic. I was thinking we'll take a break.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and talk about some theories, which I have.
All right, cool.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We're IVM Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like I mentioned last week, on Instagram, we have a bunch of interesting content coming up. Make sure that you check it out. You'll really enjoy that stuff. This week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to Satyajit and Racheta of the Open Library Project. The three of them discuss books they admire, Cyrus's love of history, and their new podcast, Paperback. Speaking of Paperback, on the third episode, they're joined by Swati Loda and her daughter Swara. They discuss a fun book they've co-authored titled 54 Reasons Why Parents Suck. On Simplified, join Chuck, Naren, and Shriketh as they do a year-end special and try to make sense of the year that was 2018. This week on The Habit Coach, Ashton simplifies the process of meditation and explains the practice of introspection. Last week on the Pragati podcast, Pawan had a discussion on ISIS and terrorism in the age of social media with foreign policy scholar Kabir Taneja. Last week, we also launched a Kannada podcast, Thalle Harate, with host Pawan Srinath, Surya Prakash BS, and Ganesh Chakravarti. The show covers everything from technology, economics, geopolitics to Karnataka's governance and public affairs. Check it out on the IVM Podcast app. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Hey, we're back. We're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Here, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Correct, yes. Sorry, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Not like Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, we're not just trekking into darkness.
Yes. So I think we should enter some spoiler territory.
Yeah, let's save this point on full spoilers, huh?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it. It's great. All right, so we'll come to the spoilers. First things first. Chris Pine, the original Spider-Man in this film, and like in all the trailers, we got to see a little bit of Jake Johnson, and we all knew that he was Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But there is another Spider-Man. The original Spider-Man from Miles' universe is a blonde Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And like, which begs to question, for me, I felt like Jake Johnson's character, his Spider-Man from the other dimension, which is Peter B. Parker.
Yeah.
I think that is the original Peter Parker.
The Tobey Maguire.
No, not the Tobey. Like I'm saying, that's the amazing. That's the Marvel.
That's
the original Earth 1
enough.
Prime.
Sure.
Peter Parker, and I think because there are a couple of things that kind of indicate that. One is Peter B. Parker. I mean, they've put a B to kind of show that he's a different one, like not the A one, the B one.
Yeah.
But it could stand well. It could just stand for Benjamin Parker.
It stand for blonde or brunette.
So here's the thing. Yeah, the other thing is that the fact that he's blonde in the original Spider-Man from this universe is blonde, which is something like what Ben Reilly is, like who the clone is in the Clone Saga. So that was one thing I thought of. Like I was like, okay, Peter Parker's not originally blonde.
I think you might be right there.
Yeah?
And I mean, Peter B. Parker's his progression in life seems to mirror
exactly
what happened with the Amazing Spider-Man in the comics.
So that is the Amazing Universe, and this is the Ultimate Universe, which is Miles' universe.
Yeah, I would say.
And
though the Ultimate Universe never had like a blonde, like
it did. I'm just trying to figure out. And the other thing is like the Doc Ock in this universe is a woman, like Olivia Octavius, which I thought is not the standard one that we know. And
Correct.
That's not. I don't even know if that's just like a creative like take on it, which I thought was brilliant. By the way,
it was great. Yeah,
it was so good. She was great. In fact, but yeah, just a few things that kind of.
But to this theory, I will say that when we're introduced to Peter Parker, not Peter B. Parker, so the Chris Pine Peter Parker,
yes,
whose montage we see right at the start, where he says like, "All right, let's do this. Here's who I am."
Yeah.
Every little scene in that montage is an homage to the Sam Raimi movies.
So they mirror that in Peter B. Parker's story also, his montage.
Yeah.
Those things are also there.
Yeah,
and
right.
then what happens after
more.
that.
Okay, correct. Fine.
So which is what happens in the comics. Like Aunt May does, die in the original, and not in this movie, but like from that universe, Aunt May does die. Peter and Mary Jane do split up. There's so many things that are actually like
Are they just
accurate.
at different stages in life, you think? Peter Parker and Peter B. Parker?
I don't know. I just feel like, it was really nice because what was really nice about that character is just that, there was this video I was watching from Captain Midnight, and a point that he brings up is that, Peter Parker's entire life has been of this, everybody's trying to make Peter Parker younger in the movies, on the comics, bring him back to school. And he's just like, don't you feel like Peter Parker maybe peaked in like his teenager or like his early 20s? And he was just asked to do the same thing over and over again. So he doesn't know how to be
tired of it.
like an adult. Like there's these really funny scenes where Spider-Man is in the shower in his suit and he's crying and he's just like, it was just like really funny because he just doesn't know how to be an adult. And I just thought that that's really like unique and it's probably what happened to somebody like Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man,
Yeah.
And but obviously he has a happier ending. I mean, he goes back to Mary Jane and it's cool. I would like to see how that kind of,
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. If anything, I mean, he's resolved to try
again.
and he'd stop trying.
Which is what the entire theme of the film is, which is like conceptually, it's like a Spider-Man never gives up, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. He doesn't, how many times can he get back up? And I think that was cool, man.
Yeah,
like,
that was cool.
Yeah. So that was my thing. By the way, there's a great post-credit sequence also in this movie, which has Spider-Man 2099, which is Miguel O'Hara, come back and he goes into the 60s Spider-Man cartoon, which is just a hilarious scene. I don't want to say it. But Oscar Isaac.
I didn't realize that.
Character.
Amazing, huh?
Dude, so what do you think is going to happen? This seems like an inevitable sequel.
There's already a sequel that's been greenlit, I believe.
Yeah, alright. Okay, cool. So that's great. And if they do, they should get in some more characters, man.
If I'm not mistaken, they have a sequel planned and a spin-off planned.
There's so many
meaning
good
that they
characters.
will take, that they'll continue the Miles Morales universe sort of thing that they've established here and probably take up one of the other Spider-Men. I'm guessing not Peter Parker,
Probably
maybe Spider-Gwen.
Yeah. She was cool.
She was cool.
Yeah, very unique story. It's like in that universe, Peter Parker is the one who dies, not Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets bitten
She
by the
becomes
spider.
Ghost Spider,
Yeah.
right?
That was cool, man.
That was cool.
Yeah, because it's a great story for her. It's like basically what would have happened to Emma Stone's character. Like, it's like a very Emma
Maybe that was
Stone-ish kind
planned
of...
as well,
Yeah.
before they abruptly scrapped those.
She was like the best thing about those films.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing else. Literally.
Nothing else.
I'm glad also there weren't that many I like that they acknowledged Sam Raimi's trilogy as the definitive one, not like even the new Marvel one.
Ooh, my one other quibble with this movie is that in Peter Parker's introduction, where they run through the greatest hits of the Sam Raimi movies, and then they show the Spider-Man 3 dancing sequence, and go like,
he was
I
in
also
suit.
did this, but we don't talk about that. I said, that is the problem. We should talk about it. It's a great sequence. But Spider-Man 3 is a good movie.
I thought about that as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that they showed it
is
cool,
right?
man. Like I think secretly
and
everyone likes
they
that
mimic
scene.
those
moves,
Tobey Maguire moves perfectly.
It's perfect, and they put him in costume because I think
they can't show Tobey's face, I suppose.
Man, they have to get Tobey in this.
It'd be amazing.
It will
playing
be.
like a Peter C. Parker.
It will. It would be like spectacular. Like literally, like it would be so cool if they got that to happen. Like
that sounds like something they'd do, though. They'd bring in like Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and have them all clash.
Yeah, or
seems like a very Phil Lord, Chris Miller thing to do.
Yeah, because they are known for going like super meta and stuff.
Yeah,
but like it would be really cool for Tobey Maguire is probably the closest thing to like Michael Keaton being Batman. You know, that old era of and I guess Hugh Jackman at some point will be that like for Wolverine. Like he only just finished playing Wolverine.
Yeah,
but he might even just do Deadpool. Like if that happens, I'm sure it'll happen. By the way,
I mean now that he's said he's up for it.
Yeah, I know they're gonna do it.
It'd be ridiculous if they didn't cash in.
Anything for money.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. Like this film, man. There's so many things in this film, man. Like
give us some. You had more theories, I believe.
So I don't know. That was my main theory. That I wanted to see. I definitely thought that was the Peter Parker. Because you know what? It also lines up with how much time has passed since the Sam Raimi trilogy has happened also.
Yeah.
So it would have been it has been 2007 is the last film that came out.
Yes.
2006, 2007, something like that. So yeah, it's been like 15
years.
years.
The Amazing Spider-Man and whatnot.
Yeah. No, I know, as in like from that universe, Peter Parker's 15 years older.
Correct, yes.
So he would be in his like 35, 40, era. So man, that's amazing, dude. Like, I don't know, so many things about this film and so many liberties were taken with the story that I just felt like, damn, these guys just have a free reign over this character, man.
Yeah, they seem to have like just tried a bunch of things that I don't know if anybody else would have allowed, huh?
Yeah.
They just kind of went nuts with everything they did with Spider-Man. Maybe because they have the benefit of worst case saying, all right, all of that was a different universe. Let's get back to our universe.
That's what they
But
indicated
had a
the
lot
end of Venom also, right?
Yeah,
Meanwhile, in another universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of creative liberty that they've taken.
You know what they should do next?
Hmm?
And I would, so much money I would give them for this. If they fuse live action with this universe, like there has to be a live action
That'd be
universe.
amazing.
Because Venom is in that and Spider-Man is in another. And man, it's not unheard of.
Again, in theory, that makes perfect sense because they clearly have different looking universes. Like Spider-Man Noah's universe is completely black and white.
Yeah.
Right? And Spider-Ham's universe is
It's
cartoon
2D animated,
Technicolor,
yeah.
2D animation.
Yeah.
So clearly there can
And
be a
one
live
is
action
anime.
universe in the same continuity. And one is anime.
Penny Parker.
You're right. Man,
Yeah.
I love those scenes where all of those spider people are standing next to each other and they're clearly
So
in
cool.
different styles.
Yeah, that
but
was really
still
cool.
feel like one piece.
Man, and it was so cool when they're all like swinging together and all that stuff. There's
Yeah.
like something real. It's like the Avengers of like Spider-Man, man. Like
Yeah.
it's like killer. It's like, wow. So
I also
good.
really liked how contemporary this movie felt. You know, like with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and with the Amazing Spider-Man as well. Actually, they try to go for this sort of comic booky, timeless. Like there's no real like signifiers of when it's happening.
For the
and stuff.
main Spider-Man
For
guy?
the main Spider-Man
Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
right? Like, there's not a lot of, culturally speaking, it could happen at any time.
point of time, yeah.
Right? With this movie, it feels very 2018. Like,
Yeah,
there's
it's very
trap
fresh.
music playing all over the
Man,
place.
Man, the soundtrack was dope.
What a great soundtrack.
Sick soundtrack, man.
With-
Like it, you know, and it's weird because usually in emotional scenes in like the 90s, you'd get like a strummy guitar kind of thing.
Like an
Here
indie
there was
ballad?
some like dope, like really good, like not hip hop. It was, yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like hip
they
hop, right?
swapped out Snow Patrol for like it's an R&B hop-ish space.
And it was great, man. Like, especially, man,
like that main song is Post Malone and
yeah, that's Sunflower,
Swiley.
man. Such a good song.
Solid song.
But like, there's so many moments in this film which I legitimately like teared up and stuff. Like, I can't remember which one it was, but like towards the end, there's this one scene where, what do you call it? Where it's the conversations between like Jake Johnson's character and Shamik Moore, who plays Miles Morales, and he just says that, you know, you don't have to do this anymore. Like, I can handle it and stuff like that. And you kind of feel bad for Peter Parker, like at that point, because he's just like, his life has reached such a point where he's just willing to give it up to save this universe and destroy this collider and stuff.
Like, he's scared to go back to his actual
Exactly, yeah.
life.
Which is brilliant, man. What an insane thought, actually. Man, great film. There's not much to say, man. It's honestly so
It's
good.
just so good. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
literally, frame by frame, it's spectacular.
Yeah.
Every single frame of this movie is just so rich and full of detail.
Okay, what do you think of the themes that they've kind of skipped from the comics, from the Ultimate Comics? So in that, this one, his mother basically dies in the comics, if I'm not mistaken, Rio Morales. And also he's like, he's homosexual, right? In the
Yes.
So I felt like that theme, obviously they didn't want.
They haven't gotten to it yet, I suppose. He's still, he must be 13, 14 in this movie?
Yeah, must be something like that.
No,
yeah.
but also he's clearly not, because there's a bit of a thing between him and Gwen.
I don't think that was like stated. Like, it was just like they were friends or whatever. And maybe it's like he doesn't know. It's like they could easily change this.
He could figure it out.
Yeah, which is cool because I mean, as much as this movie pushes the boundaries of like filmmaking and storytelling, and it's a very family film. Also, there's something for everybody, is what they've been trying to establish.
Yeah.
I would like for them to now push the themes a little bit more, because they have like this free reign, man.
Yeah.
They've done so much with the animation, so much with the quality of the storytelling, that they can afford to kind of go like even further and be a little more progressive and just do some more stuff with it. That would be really cool.
I think that is the hope for especially the Miles Morales version of the character in general now, because I was reading this article, I forget where, but basically it talked about how Miles Morales has always been a great character, but he's never fully like explored the potential of his background, right? Like it feels more like they say that this
like
is
tokenism.
Not tokenism exactly, but it's not explored in much depth, which is also fine. Basically, you're saying like, here's a black,
as in we don't need
black
to
Puerto Rican kid who is Spider-Man. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But he never really like. There's not a lot of talk about his family or how that reflects how. What kind of Spider-Man he is, which this movie has kind of started to do.
Yeah.
Which is great.
The thing that, I mean, I was watching, I can't remember, I think it was Kevin Smith's video on on all this
On
different
all the
iterations of
Spider-Man, yeah.
And he brings up a really good point about Tom Holland. He was just like, the thing that I loved about Tom Holland is like he's the first actor to play Spider-Man with a Queen's accent.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really liked. And like I didn't even think about, but he has a Queen's accent and like would make sense because he's from Queens. And similarly, like he's from Brooklyn, Miles. So I wanted to see more of like there's, I mean, like apart from a few things like adios or whatever it is, or like just a few like cultural kind of things, there wasn't like, I mean, I guess he listens to a lot of that, like a lot of hip hop and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, very part of it.
But yeah, I would like to explore more about that because I feel like this movie is all about him kind of becoming Spider-Man, and like the next few movies they could really dig, man, and do some.
I think they will
stuff.
again because now that there's a Marvel Sony Spider-Man who is kind of the classic Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's a lot to explore here in terms of a different version of the character.
Yeah.
Which I think they should go all out, and they will most likely.
And this kind of movie, it gives me the hope that you can still tell more of stories from the same character. Like, I mean, we've still not seen there's no Flash movie, like something good. We're getting Aquaman, it's fine. But, like Batman, when they say they're going to make a new Batman film, I'm just like, what are you going to tell me that I haven't seen before?
Yeah.
In the Dark Knight series, that's the only one that's really kind of focused on
I actually really thought that when Warner Brothers started the new era of Batman, with Batman v Superman and stuff, it felt like they were going to try and do something new, like an older sort of beaten up Batman who kind of
kills people.
Yeah, kills people. Sure, is dealing with a lot, like the death of his Robin and stuff.
Yeah.
But they never really explored that enough.
We never got it.
Yeah.
We just never got it. So much promised,
Shame.
Such nonsense delivered.
Well, we'll see when we see Aquaman.
Man, I hope. I'm just gonna be chill about that film.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, everyone has to watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
I really want to see I would love to see a sequel, and like I would like to see, man, the thing is that like how I'm saying, they should dig deeper into the character and do other things. They can use this whole multiple dimension thing to be the main arc of the entire series,
Yeah.
Like they could go even wild. I don't know if you ever saw this one episode. So Nickelodeon, after they bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they did a couple of really good seasons, and then they went absolutely wild. I think they knew they were going to get not cancelled or the show was coming to an end. It kind of went like Teen Titans Go towards the end. Became super meta, and the Ninja Turtles enter another like a collider kind of thing, and they go into a different dimension. And they enter the world of the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay?
Nice.
And they get the original voice actors to play them and these guys to play them. And they interact with them. And it's like those guys in 2D, these guys in 3D. It's weird.
That's amazing.
And then all these sets of Ninja Turtles go into the paperback comic books, which is
the black and white ones,
And those guys only move in panels.
Yeah.
Because you can't. And these guys are like 3D characters. Yeah. And it's just brilliant, man.
And they deal with, like, I mean, the black and white ones are super violent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Killing people.
So, I would love for them to just take it all out. And the thing I loved about, Chris Miller and Phil Lord's Lego movie is that ending of that movie is something I just did not expect to happen at all. I just thought it was going to be a fun Lego movie, but it ended up being so, like, moving.
Yeah.
Like because they just made
out of
it
nowhere, huh?
Yeah, man. And it was brilliant. Like, and that's the kind of thing I expect now for this next thing moving forward. I think that would be really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, let us know what you think about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and write to us. Sorry about the figures. Sorry about having an opinion.
I mean, that's our job. But the figures, we have an opinion about those as well, which is wrong. But yeah. Whatever.
So it's fine. I mean, thanks for mailing in though, Salman, Vinay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And find us on social media at GeekFruitHQ, and you can mail us at contactgeekfruit@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Cool. See you later.
You nerds.
Family businesses get a bad rap. At one time, they were looked down on for getting rich, for being too ambitious. Today, they're still looked down on, but for not being ambitious enough. Not agile enough, not modern enough, too traditional in their mindset. The biggest brands and business houses in the country started out as humble family businesses. It's the way India has done business. Join Sonu Bhasin in conversation with stalwarts of Indian family businesses on the Inheritors podcast series by Bloomberg Quint. Discuss the highs and lows, the needs and pressure points of building a business legacy that spans generation.
Have you gotten yourself a gym membership and shown up only a few times? Are long working hours cutting your fitness goals short? How about you change things a little? Even a small effort can make a big difference. And I'll tell you how and what exactly. Hi guys, I am Coach Urmi, and on the Kinetic Living podcast, you can look forward to some interesting stories of people who have changed the way they look at fitness after their kinetic journeys. Episodes out every Wednesday on the IVM app, website, and anywhere you get your podcast from.